Hello, my name is Bob Barrett. My colleagues and I represent the Leagues of Women Voters of San Mateo County. I will be presenting the pros and cons for the Tri-County Local Ballot Measure RR relating to Caltrain. Measure RR was placed on the ballot by the legislature and is entitled Peninsula Corridor Joint Powers Board Caltrain Sales Tax Measure. Because Measure RR is asking for increased taxes, it requires a 2/3 majority of all voters in the 3 counties to pass, per Proposition 13 and the state constitution. Here is the current situation. 70% of Caltrain funding comes from fares. Caltrain is the only passenger rail service in the country that relies on voluntary contributions from each of the 3 counties it passes through. County contributions total about $30 million. Additional contributions for Caltrain come from member agencies like the Santa Clara Valley Transportation Authority, VTA, the San Mateo County Transit District, SamTrans, and the San Francisco Municipal Transportation Authority, MUNI. Due to COVID-19, ridership is down 95%. Caltrain is kept alive by the temporary CARES Act, but there are no funds to continue the electrification program. Jerry Hill had sponsored SB 797 to fund Caltrain, but allowed the ballot measure to go ahead. It was signed by the transit authorities and the Joint Powers Board. The Peninsula Corridor Joint Powers Board, Caltrain, is an independent agency responsible for operations, capital projects, and planning for the 3 county train services on the San Francisco Peninsula. The 3 funding partners are the Santa Clara Valley Transportation Authority, the San Mateo County Transit District, SamTrans, and the San Francisco Municipal Transportation Authority. What does Measure RR propose to do? It authorizes a sales tax of 0.125%, 1/8 of a cent, in the counties of Santa Clara and San Mateo, and the city and county of San Francisco for a period of 30 years. Because this is a tax measure, it requires a 2/3 majority of voters to approve it. It is estimated to raise about $108 million per year. With this new tax, a dedicated source of revenue will be obtained to fund the operating and capital expenses of the Caltrain rail service, and for no other purposes. This allows Caltrain to increase peak and off-peak service and would provide subsidies that would make train service accessible to riders of all income levels. The Joint Powers Board will develop guidelines for and will administer the collected funds for the purposes intended. The fiscal impact of Measure RR is as follows. It makes a step toward Caltrain being self-sustaining with no impact locally besides sales tax. A 30-year, 1/8 of a cent tax across the 3 counties will generate approximately $100 million per year. The revenue collected will cover the annual $30 million in contributions from the 3 counties for operations funding and provide roughly $60 to $70 million per year to fund the aging system's ongoing maintenance needs and to build new infrastructure that will greatly increase the capacity and efficiency of services. The new sales tax of 1/8 of a cent is applied to purchases that are usually taxed and to taxed uses. You can see the increase in taxes across the counties in the graph comparing the current tax rate and when the 0.125% increase is applied. Here are the arguments for and against Measure RR. Supporters say, most importantly, the tax will save Caltrain from ceasing operations. Further, it will improve the system with more trains and better connections with BART. It will continue to keep about 65,000 cars off the road. There will be strict fiscal accountability. Opponents say pension and personnel costs have made the Caltrain budget difficult to meet. As always, it should be remembered that sales taxes are regressive and hurt the poorest communities most. Furthermore, Caltrain serves affluent riders whose fares should not be subsidized. No reportable contributions have been made at this time for or against Measure RR. Measure RR, yes or no? Measure RR requires a 2/3 majority of yes votes to pass. To help you remember what this measure is about, RR stands for railroad. A yes vote is a vote to approve a sales tax of 0.125%, 1/8 of a cent, for 30 years in the counties of San Francisco, San Mateo, and Santa Clara. A no vote is a vote to not approve the sales tax.